Hong Kong has long been seen, at least by novelists and filmmakers, as the perfect location for a nest of spies. James Bond, currently wowing cinema audiences in No Time to Die, faked his own death in the city in You Only Live Twice in 1967 and later returned in The Man with the Golden Gun. But even Bond might pause before plying his trade in Hong Kong today. The sweeping national security law passed by Beijing last year imposes a sentence of up to life imprisonment for spying. Now, more legislation is on the way. Hong Kong has had a constitutional duty to pass security legislation under Article 23 of the Basic Law since the 1997 handover. It failed to do so amid concern such laws would restrict the city's freedoms. Ultimately, China's central government, concerned about civil unrest in 2019, imposed its own national security law on the city. But the requirements of Article 23 remain. Hong Kong's Secretary for Security, Chris Tang, suggested last month that the new laws would target foreign spies. But they will go further than that. They are expected to cover areas not expressly dealt with in Beijing's security law, such as treason, the theft of state secrets, and sedition. Article 23 has been contentious since the drafting of the Basic Law in the 1980s. The inclusion of subversion, for example, was briefly removed from the draft article in response to concerns in Hong Kong. It was restored after the Tiananmen crackdown in 1989. A bid to pass the laws in 2003 was shelved after a peaceful protest by around 500,000 people. But the political climate has changed dramatically since then. In October that year, the Constitutional Affairs Chief, Stephen Lam, said the protest showed the public has a deep respect for the rule of law and they love freedom. These values are crucial to democracy. It is difficult to imagine such sentiments being expressed by officials today. 20 years ago, I was advocating the passing of Article 23 laws in as liberal a form as possible. It was not a popular view at the time, but the political climate back then was calm. My concern was that the city, if Article 23 was delayed, would end up with tough national security laws enacted at a time of crisis. My fears have now been realised. That said, even the much more liberal version of the laws on offer in 2003 would have had a chilling effect on rights. Hong Kong was spared this for 17 years after the protest. Beijing, no doubt, would argue it opened the door to civil unrest in 2019. Hong Kong has long had other laws covering security. In 2003, I repeatedly asked officials to identify a specific threat not already covered by existing legislation. I never received a satisfactory answer. The question is still relevant. Hong Kong already has a law on treason and official secrets. There is a broad law on sedition. Anything left over is surely covered by the all-encompassing national security law. It's difficult to see what more needs to be done. We can only hope that the exercise of passing Article 23 measures will provide the clarity the security law lacks. The new legislation must thankfully follow a public consultation and local legislative process. Hong Kong law also says it must meet the requirements and limits on such measures under the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Officials say the laws are needed to ensure Hong Kong is not shaken by further trouble. Let's hope the community is not stirred by any impact the measures may have on our freedoms.